Dimp Digital presents Idle Game Chat.
Cool.
Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown. Dash into a stylish and thrilling action-adventure platformer set in a mythological Persian world where boundaries of time and space are yours to manipulate. Play as Sargon and evolve from a sword-wielding prodigy to an extraordinary legend as you master acrobatic combat and unlock new time powers and unique super abilities. Unleash your inner warrior. Use your time powers, combat and platform skills to perform deadly combos and defeat time-corrupted enemies and mythological creatures. Lose yourself in the... what does that say? Mount of Quaif?
Yeah.
Is that
I think it's Mount Quaif, yeah.
Okay, so lose yourself in that. Discover a cursed Persian-inspired world filled with larger-than-life landmarks and explore a variety of highly detailed biomes, each with their own identity, wonder and danger. Live an epic adventure. Immerse yourself in the Persian mythological fantasy through an intriguing and original story as you use your wits to solve puzzles, find hidden treasures and complete quests to learn more about this corrupted place. So I'm not here to talk about that. Pac-Man Adcock is, though. Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown. As I look at this and look through the trailers and done a bit of reading, it seems like it's in that very overused but probably accurate genre of Metroidvania. Is that correct, first of all? Is that the correct assumption? Or is this going to surprise everyone and say, actually, it's a battle royale game?
No, spot on. It couldn't be. What Metroidvania?
Well,
isn't it just Metroid? Where's the Vania?
Castlevania.
I know that, but what's that bringing to the table? I feel like Metroid is start with no powers, get powers, backtrack. But where I don't understand what Castlevania is bringing into that mix. In my head, it is more. I get that. Was it Symphony of the Night?
That's the one that sort of got itself in
that
there.
That was Castlevania that kind of nicked Metroid attributes, and then it's like formed this new genre that I was thinking this basically as I played it. I was like, I don't understand that where it comes from now.
It's a term that I think just sounds cool and then stuck. Like I don't know how accurate it is and what it specifically means. I kind of think I know what it's like when I see it, like guacamole.
Oh yeah, no, I agree, 100%. I just don't know what the Vanias bring into the mix. Is my point.
Yeah, I don't have enough experience with Castlevania to say that. I've played Super Metroid, but I think so. As I understand it, like Super Metroid is what it is. Like you pick up your powers and that's your lot. Whereas Castlevania had like a RPG elements to it, so you can put points into things. So,
oh yeah, that might make sense. Yeah,
I don't think all Metroidvanias have that, but I think if you straddle one of those lines, you kind of get bundled into this new subgenre.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can level up and do bits and pieces in, like what you would do in an RPG. So I think that's where the Vania comes from. Whilst that also kind of had the same sort of vibe of 2D map that you sort of look at in blocks and work your way through the castle, and has that sort of vibe as well. But yeah,
so this is exactly that basically. If you've played a Metroidvania before, you're going to know exactly what to expect here.
So in terms of that, a Metroidvania, I mean, have you played any other recent ones? Like Metroid Dread, did you ever give that a go on the Switch?
Yeah, I had that, beat that. Played, I didn't complete it. Hollow Knight was another more recent one I played. They're the more recent ones, so yeah. So
you're not like playing these every year, but you're not seeking out a Metroidvania to play. No. It's just that they are so popular that you can't really avoid them at times, can you? Mm-hmm. So that's interesting there. And I guess Prince of Persia as a franchise has a lot of cachet. Well, not these days, but back in the day. Was this something that you were wowed by, or did it completely pass you by and it's just sort of hung around like a bad smell in some instances? Everyone waiting for that remake from 8 years ago.
Completely missed it, mate. So I thought played the original one on God knows what, Amstrad or Commodore.
something.
Remember
I
going-
mean, yeah,
yeah,
taped
played
it.
like around a cousin's house or something. And then all the other ones, as far as I'm aware, I missed. I might have rented a game once, but I didn't play Sands of Time, or if there's any other big ones. Completely missed that sort of the renaissance of this series, and I've just skipped straight to what I think is the most recent one. Although I think another one's been announced.
I've lost. To be honest, I know they were doing that
Yeah.
remake of Sands of Time, and it sort of disappeared because it was in fantasy gaming leagues for about 5 years, and then has dropped off. But I mean, the first one came out in like 88, 89. Like, it's really old. I think people don't realise that it goes back that far. But Sands of Time was the one that kind of put it on everyone's radar, I think. And then we got this, like the Lost Crown. I remember when it was first announced, and people were like, "Oh, why Prince of Persia doing Metroidvania? We want the Sands of Time. We want this. We want the 3D, whatever they wanted." And really was like, this was written off before it even got a chance to breathe. Then it actually comes out and gets like pretty good reviews, 87 on Open Critic. I'm assuming that's where it sort of caught your eye at that point once the reviews came in. And I'm assuming also if you saw the trailer beforehand, you sort of went, I don't hate it for it being a Metroidvania. I'm not like one of these waiting for the right Prince of Persia games. That just looks like maybe a cool game, but we'll wait and see.
It's interesting. It's in fact, it was the arguments in the Dimp group when I think it was Biff selected this and he kind of defended it.
Right.
And he was like, has anyone actually watched the trailer? It actually looks good.
Yes.
And I actually went and looked at the trailer and I was like, he's right. That does look good. And since then, it's on my little sniffometer. And I was like, I beat whatever I played last, and I was like, do you know what? I'll give that a go. Like, in my brain, I was like, it's a bit more of a throwback, simple, 2D. I'll be all over this. They're fucking a lot harder than I remembered, though. Pain in the ass, really.
Yeah, they're not as easy as they should be. Although, then again, like, play Super Metroid like that without the rewind feature on, it'd be like. I would have never got through it. Like, it's so hard, those games from like the 80s and 90s. This is like a different sort of hard. So when did you decide, I'm going to get this then? Like, was it like pre-planned, or was it on a whim? Did you see it on sale somewhere? Is there a physical version or is it digital?
It's physical. I just, I think it was Alan Wake 2 I played like from the end of last year, well into the beginning of this. And I think after that, I just wanted something very different, so.
Didn't want to be scared.
Simple as that. Yeah, exactly. I was like, I don't want to be scared anymore. I want to be in a bright, nice 2D environment where nothing can hurt me.
Lovely jubbly. And how much was it? Was it cheap, or was it on offer?
I think like 35. It wasn't. It was definitely like a much lower tier of game.
And then how long do you think you spent on it, all in all?
Mate, this is ridiculous. So in actual hours, probably about 30, I'd say. Wow. 25 to 30. In terms of like date, this must be like let's say maybe it was nearer 20 than 30, but somewhere in that sort of spectrum. But in terms of how many days and weeks it took me, I've never like dropped and picked up a game so many times. Basically, there were elements of this game that I loved. Like, it's got all the hallmarks of like the Metroidvania are there. So like, like the power-ups you get like so you can upgrade all your weapons and things and health. You can get little like amulets that work as like buffs, that will give you increased speed and kind of all sorts of things. You can have like it's always like time-based, like your little review said. So like there'll be bits where if you parry, it will create a time bubble. So if you can keep the enemy in that bubble, he's obviously really slow.
Yeah, and you can smash him up and...
Got excellent like boss battles, like really, really hard. Really kind of reminded me almost like Dark Souls, or not so much Dark Souls, but maybe more like
was it like Hollow Knight? 'Cause that's quite hard, isn't it? Those bosses,
Hollow Knight, like Cuphead as well. It's all kind of pattern based, but I love all that. I was like loving it, and then like I guess this is kind of a hallmark of these Prince of Persia games, like really intricate like platforming and traps. Again, this was more like or reminded me of. Super Meat Boy, that kind of thing. So you have to use like every time you clear an area or a boss, you'd get like an upgraded actual ability. So you might be able to, all the classics again, double jump, dash in the air,
Yeah.
You can like put like an enemy into like a portal and then chuck it out somewhere else, and you kind of have to use those abilities to kind of navigate these traps as well. So I loved all of that. The one element I just didn't like was the map and the backtracking and not knowing where quite to go. What's so funny is when it starts the game, it's like, right, there's two features here. You can either have assisted.
Yep.
And it's quite clever. Some of the things you can like take a photo of like an area that's interesting, so you can then, if you need it later, you can go back on your map and you've got an actual shot of that area. So you're like, oh, that's where that first, it's clearly something you need with a new power. So it's good. Or you can go unassisted, so there's no map markers, doesn't tell you where to head or anything. I started the game like that, and I was like, what was I thinking? I lasted for about an hour and a half, went assisted, and I still struggled so much because I don't know if I've played another Ubisoft game. They say Ubisoft.
Yeah, I say Ubi, but
Ubi, okay.
Some people say Ubi.
Yeah. Anyway, and like it's got all those side quests in it, so you can end up going off kilter and doing bits, and because it's all these puzzles, they're heavy and they're hard. You can spend ages trying to get through a bit, and it's only just to get some side quest bit anyway. And you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. So towards the back end, I just ended up having a guide just to lean on to tell me where to go.
Yeah.
And then I just done all the sort of puzzling, all the bosses myself. But it just helped me kind of... I wasn't going to get through it otherwise. I know Biff, I think, played it and binned it.
Yeah,
he
got sick of the traversal of getting from point A to point B, and then...
Exactly.
He probably got the last boss as well, knowing him. He does that sometimes without realising.
I do agree with him, though. I found it... I just wanted this same experience, but just to be like a puzzle platformer, like not to have the getting lost element as well, and having to find, navigate your way around this giant map.
Did you get lost in Metroid Dread?
I was thinking this. I think a little bit, but I feel like that was very, because you had those those like not hubs, but the bits where the like the dread bit would kick in. Those robots would come after you, and I feel like every area was kind of based around one of them. It kind of just made it more. I don't know. I knew where I was going more.
I remember watching a video about... Yeah, when they designed it, basically what they would do is if you had to do something in a specific area, they would cut off your backtracking options for certain doors, so you didn't go off too far. So you was kind of like... You can't access... There were times when like the door would or something would fall down behind you, I don't know if you remember. Yeah. And that was to stop you from getting lost, coming back, and then going all the way back the wrong way. So they kind of like cut into sections almost. And he still was like pretty expansive. Like it wasn't just like a linear path, but it just cut down some of the nonsense, I guess, or the confusion for people. Whereas this sounds like it's open at all hours, so you're like, well, pot luck here.
It felt like it, and there are like general markers to go to, because obviously it's never just a linear way to get there. I just found myself getting like lost so often, and like I said, because how intricate some of the puzzles are, generally normally if it's really hard, it's really just for an upgrade or a like a puzzle piece or something like that's not main quest. But you kind of don't realize how hard something is until you're halfway through, because everything's a little bit tricky. Some of it's really real head scratches, some of the stuff you have to do to get around these traps.
And just do it each time. You can't... It isn't like... You don't get past it once and then it's like, okay, now you've unlocked like a skip almost, like a little like platform, or have you got to do the same?
It does that,
okay,
yeah.
But not all the time.
Does, yeah. Not all the time, no.
And is there a fast travel element that you can lean on? That's still not up to snuff?
It's a little bit Dark Souls-y, so you'll get to these like trees, and they're normally with a tree will also be an upgrade, like it's like a machine next to it. And at the tree you can kind of redo your loadout, so if you go into a poison area, you can put up poison defense, all that kind of stuff. That also respawns all the enemies, so that's where I guess it's got like more of a Dark Souls feel to it. So you rest, you get all your energy back, but everything in that area comes back.
Interesting. So was there any solution you come up with to sort of solve the traversal side of things? Because the complexity of like getting round something is probably quite fun the first time round, or part of like the game's DNA, but it sounds like over time you just sort of like, I just cannot find an easy route through.
It wasn't. I loved the sort of puzzling element. It was more just like I would end up being somewhere for like 30 minutes trying to work out a puzzle, only to find, oh, that's not even where I needed to go. So I was making such little progress that then I was just like, I just need to know roughly where I'm meant to go after beating this boss. Tell me what's next. Okay,
And assisted mode doesn't do that. It just sort of gives you
right. It might put like a marker on, but like I said, you can. It's in an area of the map that you might not even have got the map piece for.
So it's just like this arrow or this marker that's on a blank tile somewhere, and you're like, I don't even know how to even.
Exactly, and you might think, oh, I need to go up, and left, but then there is no up and left. It's never that straightforward. No. So I was just like, I just need to know where I'm going, and then if I get stuck, I can just go back and go, okay, right. So no, I need to go. That just having that little guide then made it for me a lot more palatable, because there was still, I didn't get help on any of the bosses, didn't get help on any of the puzzles. So for me, I was still having a good time with the game. It just then just got rid of that annoyance for me.
Yeah, that's fair enough. On the narrative side of things, I've heard mixed things about the story. I don't know how important it is to the game, whether it's just backdrop or if they try and sort of pin a lot of the game around it. But what's your opinion of the story, narrative, characters, that sort of thing?
It's all right. They try to do something with it. The thing is, when it doesn't grab your interest, so then you're really kind of only half invested anyway. Kind of looks a bit like and plays out like Hades, with
all right, yeah.
Everyone's sort of a bit, it's kind of those mythological characters, but they're all kind of young, stylized, and like their conversations are done in that kind of comic booky way for the most part.
Yeah.
Like it's fine. I would just say very typical video game. It's not what I was there for. I don't think many people would be. No. A couple of twists and turns, but nothing.
Fair enough. Did you have any technical hiccups or problems, or is it all a clean bill of health?
No, it runs really well, and just it needs to be tip top, because you wouldn't want any slowdown or frame breaks or anything, because it's like inch or millimeter perfect timing's needed in this game. So
in the Elden Ring gets a free pass for that, despite being hard. Interesting. Yeah, that's good though. Good that Prince of Persia's got that sorted, and From Software haven't. Even with Shadow of the Erd Tree still shitting its pants on the technical side. Little jab at it there. Actually, the PS5 Pro, if that is a thing, it may have been revealed by the time this goes out, but that might solve technical hiccups for Elden Ring and other games, Alan Wake, Final Fantasy 16. I've got like a list of games that I'm like, I want to go back and replay, like with the new horsepower. Because there's like a new game plus of Alan Wake 2, for example, which has got some like extra sort of content in it, like little story beats. I was like, I might as well just save that until the Pro comes out, and then that should just brute force and clean up any of the nonsense that was going on in that performance mode. But better yet, they may do a specific patch for it. But shouldn't have to buy another £550 worth of kit to resolve that. Anyway, Prince of Persia. You sort of praised the combat and the boss fights and the enemy encounters and whatnot. What's the control scheme like? I'm assuming it's nice and simply laid out, got a lot of depth to it, snappy, feels good. Like, sounds like that's a real winner as well that the game's got going.
It's great. And luckily there's a lot of like accessibility stuff like behind the scenes, because like I said, I kept putting this down, so I'd come back and I'd be like, right, what powers have I got? It was such a bad way to play this, mate. I made it so hard for myself. I really thought several times I was just going to bin it, but it all works great. But it's like by the end of it, you've got so many powers that it's like up and triangle, down and square. Like it's just.
Mate, you should have got on Switch and just had it all, just sort of ticked along all day, every day, just sort of.
It would have been a perfect Switch game, but I sold my Switch, so
I
choice.
I think you've told me that actually. I've just forgotten.
Yeah.
Ready for Switch 2, which doesn't exist yet in real life. But yeah, so that's
new Zelda game as well. Can't play that. So.
Yeah, you get to be Zelda as well. So some people are complaining because she hasn't got a sword. They're like, oh, they've dumbed her down because she's a girl. And I was like, she's got a fucking wizard's staff that like clones thing. That's much better than a sword. She can do all sorts of shit. That'll all run nicely on Switch 2, Super Switch. There's a lot. I assume there's powers and things to pick up for your combat and your traversal and whatnot. How do you get those? Do you like unlock specific abilities by doing specific puzzles, or do you get like experience points that you invest and then unlock on like a tree? How do they sort of roll out these abilities, and how do you sort of power up?
Yeah,
as
so
time goes
it's
on?
quite. I mean, it sounds complicated in that there's a couple of different things going on. So, like, your main abilities get upgraded generally through boss fights.
Right. So you get like an item or something that sort of upgrades.
Yeah, and then so if you take the double jump, for example, that will then unlock an area where you literally couldn't reach. Now you can jump higher, you can get to a whole new area and backtrack and get all the collectibles from the previous areas, and that just rinse and repeat that for every new ability. Mm-hmm. Then there's those amulets, like the buffs I was talking about, which kind of really work in combat mainly.
They like damage sort of buffs, like 10% damage or...
No, but there'll be like I said, a good example is the one there with the time bubbles. So like, the parrying's quite big on this, especially in the boss encounters. They'll go for like a critical hit. You'll get like a split second to parry and take a massive hit off them. Yeah. But then in all encounters, if you get the parry right, it will then like a bubble will open, and then any enemy, so the enemy you're fighting plus anyone else who enters that bubble will slow down, and then you can upgrade that own ability and make the bubble bigger and bigger and bigger.
Or maybe increase the time, and it lasts
longer. Yeah. So you'll find the amulet somewhere, usually like a treasure chest, and then there's like a demon who will deal your upgrades. So there's like a currency, and you can like buy more health. You can upgrade weapons, upgrade your amulets. So.
Can you only equip a certain number of amulets at a time, or can you put them all on? So you've got to choose between all the different...
Exactly, never enough, but
Interesting. This little demon, like the resources, like the coins or whatever, they easy to come by, or are they... Is it sort of scarce?
I didn't really realise. You can literally grind to get them, so if you can find the little area... I only really kind of worked this out really late game. That
classic Tom.
Yeah, it's literally standard. I was like, I can literally just go to a high level area. Because basically what I found was I just generally kind of avoid it, because some of the enemies like you encounter, they're a pain in the arse, and like you don't want to get halfway between two of these trees, to save, die, 'cause then it is a respawn back at the tree, and you're like, it just makes more sense to get where you're going. Yeah. And yeah. Like I said, I just didn't really... I made this hard on myself, very hard.
Nice. And what is the checkpoint in boss battles? Is it checkpoint just before the boss? Do you have to like do like a mad fucking Bloodborne run for all the to get to the boss again, or is it quite generous in that respect?
It's good. So it's actually, you're quite like this. So when you fight a boss, once you die, you'll get to either restart the encounter, or you can go back to the last tree and like change your loadout and give it another go.
How far away are the trees? Are they like through to it, or
can be through to it, but generally pretty easy. Like you're not often getting like. And remember, the minute you die again, you get a fresh go at the boss, completely good. So you could almost throw that away. It's not like every time you die, you have to get yourself back there. Once you're on the boss again, it's the same thing. Do you want to retry the boss? Do you want to?
So you could go back, equip a better loadout, run there, die again, then just keep that loadout and go, right, now this is the real...
Exactly.
That's the real
boss,
yeah. Yeah. That's a good way of doing it.
The boss is like, they're like multiple phases, so you kind of...
There's no checkpoint for that.
No, you have to... They are hard, really hard.
Yeah, that's good though. It's kind of like...
I like that, yeah.
A nice little challenge there. I don't know
when I say hard, it's like... I don't think any boss took me more than a night. Like I got there, I generally beat them before I went to bed, so maybe like an hour or two maximum.
Because I know Metroid Dread, I wouldn't say it was hard, but you still had to learn patterns of enemies, particularly towards like the back end. Is it a similar sort of setup where you can get it, you just got to
it's just trial and error. It's just literally that's all it is. But they are hard, aren't they? Because at first you're like, what is going on here? Then you got to figure out which one of your abilities counteracts what they're doing. And
is there any like, and even like Elden Ring, like you can go, like if you're really skilled, you can beat it on level 1 all the crazy people do that. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But sometimes you hit a boss, you're like, I'm just not powerful enough for this. Does that happen in Lost Crown, or are you always generally sort of got enough basic strength to beat them? It's just that you might have to do a bit more of a skilled sort of encounter.
Yeah. Again, because I was so special at this game, I wasn't even doing my upgrades right for a while. So for a good portion of the game, I was having to be like punch perfect, get through. And I was like, this is fucking hard, this. And then I was like, I had so much like currency and stuff. I went off and like actually figured out what to do and like upgraded myself massively. And I was
So you didn't upgrade your health or like your amulets? So it was all like base level.
I was still on base level on like boss 4 or 5. And I was like, this is getting really hard. And that made life a lot easier for a while. But yeah, it's always about the balance, because I'd done a fair bit of the side quest stuff kind of by mistake, but I think I might have been on 63% completion by the end of the game. Yeah. So there was a lot I missed, and like I said, I found things hard, but I always knew, just give me one more go. I can get this.
So you mentioned side content there. Is it any of it compelling? Is there normally like a story beat to it, or is it purely just like, oh, there's a amulet here that you might want, or fetch this for me and bring it back, and I'll give you some coins, or what's the sort of setup for those?
No, it'll be kind of like compelling, I guess, if you're buying into the story. The actual like fundamental story is pretty good. Like you kind of the Prince of Persia, who you're not.
You're going to rescue him, aren't you?
Yeah, so you're like part of this team of mortals.
That's it.
You go into this like holy city, like near, I don't know if it's near or far, but it's around where you're knocking around, and basically time is all messed up in there. So there's corrupted. Like some really good areas based on that. There's like a sea battle. Yeah, like pirate sea battle with like these huge waves like crashing down but paused, and you kind of jump over all like the wreckage of the ships to kind of navigate. Nice. So it can be really good. So like high level, I quite like the story. It was just then, where they went with it, I wasn't so keen, basically. But yeah, and the site, there's a lot of characters knocking around who are stuck in this city, from time gone by, and there's kind of weird things going on with the people you've entered with, and it will all unfold through the main story and the side quests as well.
Nice. Any temptation to go back and clean up? Nah. Just not going to do it. Secret.
Do you know what happened though? It's one of those things where I just wanted it done so badly at the end. Completed it. I was like, quite like playing now. What am I going to do now?
Yeah.
So annoying.
That's what happens sometimes. Sometimes things linger so long, you think, I've just got to get rid of this, and then immediately you're like, could have done with another week or so of just like taking my time. But there is something about just getting something done, then immediately you're like, right, that pressure's off now. Yeah. Maybe I could go back, but I never do. But when you're in the moment, you're just like, I don't want to waste my time with this. Yeah. I want to get this over the line and done.
I think the back end of the game is probably the most enjoyable, because you get to a point where you know where to go. Like, I didn't even need that guide. I was like, okay, it's clear now. It's here to here to here, and it's basically puzzles boss. There's no getting lost. It's like, this is what made this game great to me.
So you could do like a little like puzzle boss rush mode where it's just sort of cuts out all the exploration. It's just like Cuphead.
Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe they'll add it in as a DLC. Little mode idea there for Ubisoft. Any other business? Soundtrack all good? Nice.
It's all right. I played it because that's baby. I can't really play it. There's a couple of times where I did whack the volume up when no one was here. That's like, it's actually really good. Yeah. But I've got headphones. I don't know why I don't pop them on. I'm an idiot.
You should get those. They do like those that's expensive actually. Those little PlayStation like earpods. That you can sort of have just one in and be like, right, I can hear surroundings for a child and cats, but still sort of getting nice. Although if it's like stereo, then I've had it before where it misses like beats of music. You're like, well, might as well have nothing here. Might as well be coming out the telly at like 1. But any other business, there's no character creator or anything like. Can you change your outfits, anything like that? Any customized like haircuts, any sort of?
Not first time round. Perhaps on a replay. But no, that's everything, I think.
Lovely jubbly. Let's go outside the gaming gallery. As I said, we've got the keys out. We can go in the car park to the self-storage. This doesn't sound like it's going to end up there, which puts Biff's spotchling bin ranking of this into the spotlight, really. I'd be interested to see how far he got and then binned it. I want him to tell you where he got to, and you can be like, yeah, he was like 2 hours from the end. You could have just finished that, but I suspect he didn't get to that sort of stretch you were talking about where he knew where to go, because he was complaining about the traverse and whatnot. But anyway, I'll let you decide. Does it go into self-storage, or are we going to chuck it in the gallery and recognise it for what it is?
Get it in that gallery.
Lovely jubbly. And then you've got the platinums, you've got the gold, you've got the silvers, and you've got the bronzes for Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown.
I'm going to give Prince of Persia, Lost Crown, a nice silver.
Lovely jubbly. They can't complain at that, can they? Considering it was probably one of like... I bet if you look somewhere, there's like a article saying Prince of Persia, Lost Crown, 1,000 likes, 16,000 dislikes. Like, you get those articles where there's a trailer gone out, but seemingly it was actually a good game, just that people got their knickers in a twist over Prince of Persia not being what they wanted at the time. But the Lost Crown comes through, gets itself a nice silver. Does this give you any extra interest in a future Prince of Persia game? So that's the first question. Not specifying genre. I'm just saying they come along with.
No, it would. I'd be curious to know, and I could probably find the answer out very easy because a lot of them are 3D. But I'd wonder how the puzzling elements and these traps work in a 3D environment. Because I love them, but they were so intricate because they, over a 2D plane they can be.
Yeah.
Just curious to know what they're like in a 3D space. But yeah, it would definitely make me more. I'm not saying I'd get anything, but I'd be more interested to know what comes next and consider them at least.
That's fair enough. And then for Metroidvanias going forward, I imagine they're still going to make up a healthy diet, but has this increased your sort of radar? You're like, actually, I'll fancy playing a few more of those a year rather than maybe the 1 or 2.
I think it's the opposite, mate. I think, do you know what? Because I fell off of Hollow Knight as well, where
you got pretty far into that as well. I remember you was playing that a while, and I think you said, I can go back to it one day, but I have no idea where I am. And then
exactly, and I remember loading it up once and using the guide just to kind of get myself orientated. But I was like, it's been too long. But do you know what? I get lost so easily in games that they're just not fundamentally for me, and it really then. I don't like playing a game and just, playing for an hour and a half and don't feel like I made any progress.
Yeah, that is frustrating.
Yeah.
You've got Metroid Prime Remastered? You sold the Switch, though. It's gone. The whole dream's gone.
Metroid Prime Remastered.
Did you get it or not?
No.
I tried to talk you into it.
Yeah, I think I bought the trilogy. So it would have been the original GameCube. And I never played them anyway because I didn't. Yeah, so no, I've not played that.
Fair enough. I know I was trying to talk you into getting it, but then I forgot you sold the Switch, so that's a non-start. I have to wait till Switch 2, when probably Metroid Prime 4 will be out then. So people can die, because that's like a 3D version of these, and it's interesting to sort of get your perspective on that, because like you said, there's certain things in 2D which are usually more interesting because they can be more, like you said, intricate and precise. Whereas in 3D, it's kind of like, that's annoying. I sort of made that jump and still fell. You're like, can't really judge how far away you're from the ledge. There's annoying things that can happen. So there we go. Well, there you go. That's sort of a review of The Lost Crown, Prince of Persia, Metroidvania royalty in some people's eyes. But sitting on a 87, a good scorer for the Fantasy Gaming League for those that had it. And Adcock drops it a nice silver, so they can't complain at that. We'll shut down this particular episode of Idle Game Chat. Lost Crown, silver. Thanks for your time, and ta-da.
This was a Dimp Digital production.